All right, come on up, Trevor and Cheryl. So Cheryl Lamb with Walmart and Trevor with Aura. Aura is also a gold sponsor. Thank you very much, Trevor. I'm going to give that to one of you guys and let you do your thing.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. God, those lights are quite bright.
Aggressive.
It's terrifying, actually. I'm going to fall into classic British mode and go into full self-deprecation. So if you feel awkward at any time, it's deliberate, okay? Now, my worry is, with an afternoon session directly after lunch, is that you're all feeling like, I could just have a quiet nap at the back. I see you. There's someone at the back. So I'm not going to make you stand up, jig about, but I'm really excited to be here with Cheryl. We're really excited to talk about the partnership that we've been working on. And it's great to be here. I've been along now to a few Velocity events. And what I really like about them is actually they're quite intimate, not too intimate, but we can all have a conversation and we don't feel like there's hundreds of people dashing around. So thanks to Chris, thanks to Lorraine in particular, because she does all the hard work. And what I want to talk about today with Cheryl is what Walmart have been doing. And hopefully it'll be really informative to you all. For those that don't know Aura, let me just take a moment to talk about what we do. In my role at Aura, I'm the Client Services Director. I try my best to ensure that we deliver against our contracts. And what I love about that is we are here really helping organizations take great strides with regards to their packaging sustainability. And Aura itself is a packaging sustainability consultancy based in the UK, but with global clients. We're all about data, and that will come through in some of the conversations today. But if you're wondering, is my packaging actually sustainable? How do I measure progress? That's what we're here to try and help with. And I'd like to thank the other presenters because you've talked about some incredibly important topics. Steve talked about being every day, it becoming part of the process. Jack, I love how there's so much effort going in, because sustainability is hard, right? There isn't one person here that's sat there going, oh, my job's really easy. We're all battling that uphill challenge to get people to recognize investment and effort and resources are required. So let's collaborate, let's try and help one another as much as we can, and that's why I'm really pleased to be here with Cheryl, because Cheryl is the kind of person that wants to help organizations as much as possible. Over to you, Cheryl.
Good afternoon, all. I'm Cheryl Lamb. I feel a little exposed because I've been called out a few too many times. I'm part of the Walmart Private Brands organization, responsible for food, consumables, health and wellness, sustainable initiatives. So I am never bored, and I probably never sleep. But it has been a great pleasure to be here with you all and to discuss one of my favorite topics of the last almost 5 years with you today.
Fantastic, thanks, Cheryl. And as I said, Cheryl makes the effort. She won't say it herself because she's modest, but she wants organizations to make progress. And so I think today, through this chat, we want to provide information. We want to challenge the norms, and we welcome all your questions because if we can help one another, we'll make faster progress. So let's get into it, right? Cheryl, could you tell us about what Walmart are trying to achieve with your sustainability goals?
Well, right there, you got it. You've got our 4 pillars of our sustainability goals for Walmart, and we're not really shy about it. You've probably seen this before. It is out on a public website, walmartsustainabilityhub.com. We have resources against each one of them, and it's all around climate, nature, waste, and people. Today, we're going to be focusing on waste because that achieving 100% of our private brands in recyclable, reusable, industrially compostable is hard. It is really hard work. And then as you start looking at the different aspects of legislation putting their impact on us, it makes it that much harder. So those are our goals. It's all out there. Are we going to reach every single one of them? Probably not, but we need those aspirational goals, as Steve said.
And if we could just take a step back, my first question is always why? Why does a business, an organization, need a sustainability program, in your opinion, Cheryl?
I feel like I don't even have to say it because all those who have spoken this morning have already spoken about it. It is about the socioeconomic, environmental impacts that we all have a role to play in. So for Walmart, it started with Katrina. For me personally, when Walmart came knocking and said, hey, we've got this role here, we just put out a commitment to do 100% recyclable, reusable, industrially compostable by 2025, and you're a packaging engineer. Can you move over into this role? I'm like, are you crazy? I won't be able to sleep. That's not achievable. But here I am, 7 years later.
Still got your hair.
Still try. I mean, I've got a job as long as I need it because this is a difficult pull.
It's interesting because it speaks back to Steve's point from earlier about setting a challenging target, right? There's nothing more challenging than saying everything is going to be recyclable, reusable, or industrially compostable. And I speak to many retailers and brands who are very frightened about making that kind of commitment. And I'm not suggesting for 1 minute there's a right or a wrong way. Every single organization has a differing approach. But I think it's great to see an organization leading the way like Walmart. That's what I would absolutely say is something important to consider. There are absolutely leaders, and then there are the fast followers, and that's how it will always be. I think we're all here today because we want to start making that step. And one of the consistent challenges that I come across is, where do I start? So I'm interested, Cheryl, where did Walmart start on this journey?
So if we go to that next slide, you'll see our packaging journey. And of course, we had our goals. Use less plastic, make it recyclable, label it, how to recycle. Make sure that our customers know what to do with our packaging at end of life. Put metrics around it, put an aspirational goal out there. Yes, that's what we did. And then try and figure out how to capture it. We did that with our Walmart Gigaton portal. And for any Walmart manufacturers out there, your data is due. It is currently survey season, and it closes November 8th. And for those who have utilized eHalo, which we will be talking about in a little bit, you guys got a pass. All you had to do was answer, do you have how to recycle on your packaging? And all of a sudden, 2 months of work has disappeared from you. But with that said, we do need the data to be able to start proactively working towards our goals and to be able to identify the low-hanging fruit and start working on innovations and capacity and capability for the much harder fruit out there. So with that, we knew, even when we first started gathering data from Project Gigaton, we knew we needed item-level data, which led me to eHalo.
Okay, so this is not a sales pitch. I'm just going to tell you what eHalo is, so it's factual and out there. eHalo is a SaaS system that Aura created, and it was there to address the challenge, right? Organizations have a wide range of areas they collect data. Look, I'm not going to hold you to it, but if anyone wants to be brave and put their hand up, who out there is using spreadsheets to collect their packaging data? Oh, okay, thank you for being brave. Anyone out there using like a product lifecycle management system or an SAP system? No? Okay, that's fine. What I would say is we identified a challenge, which was if you don't have something specific that is collecting packaging sustainability data, it might be challenging to achieve all of the challenges that are coming your way. Steve put it up on the screen earlier, and it wasn't scripted, right, Steve? That was just your presentation. I had nothing to do with it. But all of that stuff about bottle bills, EPR, hands up if you don't know what EPR is. No, everyone knows, right? So you're all prepared. Extended producer responsibility. If you're not prepared and you don't have data yet, you're probably a bit late. And so eHalo collects packaging data, but it does it at a granular level by packaging component. We're not just saying it's a plastic bottle. We're going down to the gauge, the substrate, adhesives, inks, etc. Because there are so many things that can make packaging bad, and I put that strongly in inverted commas. And as an example, eHalo can actually calculate recyclability in line with H2R automatically. And Cheryl reminds me quite constantly how important that is to Walmart. So that's what eHalo does, and it's a key part of what Cheryl and the team at Walmart are using to achieve their goals. So Cheryl, before you mentioned legislation. What are you using this data to prepare you for? How are you using this data, and what will it do to enable you?
Well, with legislation coming, right, with having EPRs in 4 states coming up now, we, as part of Walmart, we're part of the founding members of CAA. We want to be able to help with that eco-modulation, and we do want to be a steward for our own packaging. We want to be responsible for the things that we are putting out there, but we also want to be able to do it responsibly and with data. We are not going to average up and down with our scale and with our plastic footprint. That could be millions of dollars in either direction. So it's quite the impact for us to be able to use data, to be able to start looking at legislation, to look at compliance, to look at helping our suppliers who may be small or medium or large and want to know if their innovations or their next steps are aligned with our priorities.
Yeah, and just to provide a bit more context around that, hands up if you've heard about eco-modulation. No one? Okay, so EPR may well bring eco-modulated fees to the marketplace. That means if your packaging is considered to be bad, you will pay more for that packaging. And if your packaging is sustainable, good, you'll pay less in terms of stewardship fees. So if we think about the packaging data that's being collected in eHalo, what Walmart are then using that data to do and working with suppliers, they can work towards converting that packaging into something that is going to cost less. And it isn't just about money, but sometimes it can be important to maintain or protect the bottom line. And one of the things that comes up quite often in our conversations is attributes that could be considered to be bad. As an example, PFAS, PVC. So how does eHalo help you with those types of things?
Well, we were able to partner with Aura to be able to put in kind of flags, drop-downs, information that we already know as part of Walmart we want to start eliminating from our portfolio, like EPS, PS, PVC, all of the PFAS, the different additives, biodegradable, et cetera. We want visibility to it. We know that we cannot overnight remove all of the EPS in our portfolio, but we want to be able to identify it so that we know when that innovation's there, we'll know what materials to store or what products are impacted that we could start moving forward with.
And I think that across, it's not just Walmart, but across the industry, the legislation is changing faster than anyone can keep up. So it could be that in California, something is banned, and it will be completely different in Maine. And I think it's a really big challenge for the entire industry to maintain an understanding of what is at risk. So if you don't have that data, you want to start getting it. Otherwise, it could come back and you could be audited, or someone comes along and says, you know what, you're actually polluting. Did you know that there could be a fine for that? These are all things that could contribute towards risk, and I think we've talked about that a little bit this morning as well.
But we also have a global supply chain in which our manufacturers may not necessarily have understanding of what the US requirements are. So eHalo has really helped those suppliers understand that although it may be recyclable in Europe, it's not in the US. And how do we start moving that needle here?
I think also, just to speak to what Jack said this morning about guidelines, I think that packaging guidelines are essential to that. So if you're starting to think now, okay, I've learned something today. I didn't know there was such a thing as eco-modulation. I didn't know that legislation was changing in different states. Maybe your packaging guidelines could be reviewed and you could start to educate your suppliers on the types of attributes you want to phase out, because then you could make something recyclable or you could make it compostable. These are all just considerations to throw out there. So what advice, Cheryl, would you give to businesses who are trying to understand their existing packaging and how to make it more sustainable?
So I would definitely chunk it out. Like, if it is in grocery only, in the food space, understand, where are your bottles, or where are your film packages? What type of packaging do you have in the industries or categories that you support? To be able to then know, hey, what goals can I set against that? Is there a plastic reduction? Is there something that I can say, hey, in this space, I shouldn't even need packaging? Or this is an opportunity where I can look at reuse or a refill model. And then, of course, you're still going to have to report. You're still going to have to find a way to get that data and be able to report out.
And how embedded would you say this ideology is within the everyday process at Walmart?
So it is the only way it's going to work. It has to be embedded in the process. And you can see here that as part of private brands, we will develop the packaging requirements there. If we, myself, Catherine, find innovation out there in all the industry places, conferences we go to, Pack Expo, suppliers that come visit us and tout their latest innovation, we will find a home for it. We'll find a way to pilot it if it's something that we see legs for. So we'll put that into our packaging briefs. Our suppliers will then, usually, our suppliers are open to piloting with us and partnering with us. And then once that's in there, it's going to be put into eHalo. And eHalo will help evaluate and support us there with both supplier success managers and with technical compliance managers. Now, Walmart is a people-led, tech-powered company. And with that, I would say eHalo is the same thing. We've got people behind the scenes to help our suppliers, because I'm not sure, for those who have ever supported Walmart, I used to be a supplier, so I used to support Walmart, and they would give me a new system, the Walmart packaging dashboard. There was something. It was quite the report to fill in. And there's not necessarily support for that. In this case, we wanted to make sure, for a system that you are not necessarily in 365 days a year, that there were people there to support our suppliers to get through the process, to get the information in there, and to have someone validate, verify that information for us.
Yeah, and just to explain a little bit more around that, there's two teams that support Cheryl and the Walmart function. Those supplier success managers are just engaging day in, day out with suppliers, because it isn't just about collecting the data once. This is just an ongoing challenge, right? If you've got, let's say, 30,000 products in your portfolio, you don't just have 30,000 and it stays that way for the next 10 years. We're fast-moving goods, right? So it could be 20 or 30% churn every single year. If the packaging data isn't up to date, you'll never know where you are in your journey. And that's something that we're constantly trying to educate and support the suppliers in trying to achieve in their everyday process. Steve has a great team, April, who works in the Perigo function, constantly on the phone with our team, working together and talking about the packaging specifications. And then Cheryl talked about technical compliance, and I find it fascinating. Organizations go out there and they collect data, but they don't have the time to validate it. What's the point of data that you know is wrong? And we talked about EPR before. If the packaging weight is inaccurate, I'm not even going to say higher or lower than it should be, just inaccurate, you could end up paying more, or you could underpay. Both of them are as bad as one another. But accuracy at least delivers the truth. So we validate. We actually have packaging engineers that look at the bill of materials, who compare it to other bill of materials, and then identify gaps. There could be inaccuracies. And we look at technical drawings, and it's a constant process. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. There are teams out there that I could never work in, because you really need to be so focused on the process. That's why I'm not a technical compliance manager. They are brilliant because they're so good at following the process and understanding packaging.
But I will say that in private brands, Walmart also has a manufacturing arm, right? We have beef plants, we have dairy plants, and we are then also suppliers to Walmart. We have started filling out eHalo as a supplier, and I feel your pain now. Sorry, Steve. But they're also willing to help and make the process easier. So when I provide feedback, and when our suppliers provide feedback, eHalo is very reactive to go, okay, how can we make this smoother for our customer base? How can we build reporting to make it easier for them to report into the Walmart survey, which is now.
And I would just like to take a moment to talk about the everyday process again, because it's been mentioned a couple of times. Just to put an idea out there to the room. If you are thinking about retrospectively changing your packaging to make it better, try and imagine the potential damage that that packaging has done to the environment in the time it's been sold. So one of the things that we worked into the project with Walmart is the pre-commercialization process. We want to capture packaging data prior to that packaging being approved. Because if we do that, we can discuss the improvements that could be made prior to ending up in the waste stream. Why do we want to put something out in the marketplace that is non-recyclable when it could be changed ahead of time? And if you think about that journey, everyone goes through a lot of effort, right, to create a new product. I'm sure you put so much time and investment into design, innovation, production, delivery, marketing. Imagine you then get your consumer who says, but I'd rather pick the recyclable one, or I'd rather pick the sustainable option. You've missed out on an opportunity. And I think Jack made the point earlier about how private brands has grown for Sprouts. I hear that constantly. Fantastic. Well, we've got Gen Z, we've got these younger buyers that are making more conscious decisions. So why don't we make that decision proactively to make the product and the packaging the best available option today?
And that's why I'm excited about eHalo now working with How to Recycle to be able to push that information forward, because in the next phase of ours is design and inform, right? So once we identify that scalable innovation or that better material, we have to label for end of use. And to have our suppliers go into eHalo and then go into How to Recycle and not be able to get the tile that they were expecting, it's frustrating.
Thanks for the segue, actually. And I think that the conversation before from How to Recycle was fantastic. I know that everyone in the room is fully aware of what How to Recycle are doing. Only 2 weeks ago in Chicago, it was announced that Aura would be the automation partner for the How to Recycle process. So for those that aren't familiar, what happens is you have to submit a whole load of data to How to Recycle. They have a team there that will check the spec, and then they will create a tile. And I'll just speak anecdotally. Occasionally this can take 15 days, maybe 20 days. Not always, but sometimes. Imagine that process as a team. If we're all a team here and we're talking about launching a new product, do we want to wait to get an answer on whether or not our packaging is recyclable locally, at store, etc.? With eHalo, with Aura, we've now been told, put your data into eHalo and you'll get that answer immediately. And therefore, you don't have to wait. You can pass that data, that information straight to your artwork agency, and you can get making that product instantly. And that's what we've got on the screen here. So I'm just trying to show at the top, that's the current process, pre-automation, and then at the bottom, the new process. And it's optional, of course it is. But there will be organizations now that will be able to speed up the process of bringing a product to market. And they might be ahead because they're going through an automated process. It's a bit like the AI conversation, right? We all know it's there. We all know we want it, but we don't quite know how to get there. And we're trying our best to make it as easy as possible for everyone. So, Cheryl, just thinking about EPR a moment. 4 or 5 states that have stated they're going to progress, but another 45 potentially to come. That sounds challenging. So how do we get like an accurate baseline in eHalo? How are we going to prepare Walmart for that huge challenge?
We are collecting absolutely everything. So it comes to not just the package that goes home with the customer, but your secondary and tertiary packaging as well. Because as I see some of the legislation coming through, we are seeing some impact on secondary and tertiary packaging. So it makes the lift a little bit harder in the front end, but later we have a full accountability of where our packaging footprint is.
Okay. Yeah, I think that speaking as an independent in the EPR conversation, nobody knows what each state is going to ask you to report. It could be vastly different from one side of the country to another. So if you're not collecting the right granular level detail, you might end up playing a huge amount of catch up. And that could be risky to your organization. So it's just something to ponder. What is your organization doing to prepare? Are you fully prepared, and do you have a strategy? If you don't have one yet, then you might want to accelerate that, because it could come back and bite you later on. So just bringing the conversation back to Walmart's journey and your targets, where do you see Walmart private brands being in 5 years? What's your ultimate aim?
We already have a very well laid out program and journey ahead of us. I don't see us wavering too far from our path. We still have plenty to do. Despite goals and dates, et cetera, innovation has to catch up, capacity has to catch up, infrastructure has to catch up. So we will continue along our path, and if it takes us 5 years, 10 years, I'm still not going to be bored, and I'm still not going to sleep at night.
Great. And finally, just interested in, if you were to give one golden nugget of advice to the group, the room, what would it be?
Start now. If you haven't yet, start now. Start small. Understand your packaging formats and materials. Understand what legislation impacts you. If it's packaging, it's impacting all of us. And be sure you find some way to get your data validated. That is the hardest part for us, because currently in our process where we're using an aggregated supplier reported annual system, I call it survey season and post-survey season. And post-survey season is checking absolutely every line of information because of ESG claims and reporting.
Thanks, Cheryl. That's it from us. Has anyone got any questions?
I get to ask the first question.
Oh, been told.
So I'll ask you the same question I asked Jack. What do you need help with? If there was one thing that you could go, I wish somebody could help me solve this, what would it be?
Sustainability is not a competitive sport. This is something that we all have to do together. This is a collaborative thing that we have to do as an industry. We have to engage, empower, educate our partners along the way so that we are all moving in the same direction. We need the scale.
Half the grocery store could be shrunk down if we could get everybody to agree on smaller cereal boxes.
What's your percentage of suppliers who are complying with the dates and the data, timing, and reporting?
We have in our reporting well over 90% reported year over year, and we have a constant change of supply base. What we do collect in packaging specifically and in some textiles and areas where it is private brand only, we have a pretty high engagement rate. There are other parts like Gigaton that is across national and private brands.
So if you haven't gone to the Walmart site and looked at Project Gigaton, if they didn't cover it, it doesn't exist. I'll tell you, it is, hundreds of pages? And it's all publicly available. You can go look at it.
Yep, we want to share the information out there widely.
I'm curious from a supplier perspective, if you supply Walmart and you supply Target or even Sprouts, can they, and it's the same packaging, is that something that they can input once and then replicate for other customers?
Yep, absolutely. What we're trying to, I mean, I presume that's a question that I can answer. I didn't want to answer on your behalf, but we have the ability within eHalo that a supplier will have its own domain, put all of their specs in, and then can essentially choose who the client is, and then use that data in multiple domains for the retailers. So we're trying to make that connectivity as easy as possible, because we realize that there'll be a Perigo. Sorry, Steve, I keep picking on you, but you are here. And poor April will be sat there being bombarded with requests from every major retailer in the world, right? So what better than to essentially have all your data in one place and say, I'm going to choose Kroger. I'll just use them today instead of Walmart. That's what we want to try and encourage. And that's why when I asked the question of Cheryl with regards to what are you actually collecting, if the packaging form, the questionnaire, is consistent across the marketplace, then you're not going to have a situation where Sprouts are asking for different information to Walmart, because we all need to work together. Yes, there will be some specifics that you might ask for that Walmart might not. You might like the colour of people's socks. I don't know. But we can actually add customization as well if you so need it.
So can I create a SKU and then duplicate it? Because shockingly, a lot of retailers go, this needs to be unique to us, and they change it 1 ounce or the scent or some very minor thing.
Yeah. Well, we work on a component and bill of materials level. And we also have what's called a one-to-many situation. So Cheryl speaks about this in one of our videos, but let's just say you have 50 different flavors of pop. The packaging is going to be the same, right? So just put one bill of materials in, and then the one-to-many will take care of the rest. But also, if you do make a change, and let's say you come along and have a slightly better label, it's smaller, it's lighter, it's got more recycled content. You don't have to change the entire bill of materials and start again. You just change the one component, and then it once again does its magic with the one-to-many. So we want to try and reduce the amount of time that suppliers are spending in the system.
Steve wants some time.
Hi, Steve.
Less of a question, more of a comment, but just kind of corroborate that. So Perigo was one of the first to volunteer to actually be a part of eHalo. One of the reasons for that was in my presentation, I mentioned, retailers, brands get on the same page. If I'm going to hire somebody, I would much rather have to hire somebody to actually progress our goals instead of just administer data to various customers. So the concept of getting all of our data into eHalo and having other customers hopefully join and just link it to them, that will save us thousands of hours worth of administration in the long run. So yeah, that's one of the key reasons why is we saw the vision and thought, you know what, let's get ahead of this and maybe we can help you kind of drive towards a global standard.
Thanks, Steve.
And resistance.
The check's in the post.
Trevor will give you your $1,000 later. Anybody else?
Hi.
The lights are very bright. So.
Go ahead.
Not to give away any secrets or anything, but how does the model work as far as who pays and how they pay? Like, how does that work?
It actually depends upon the particular contract.
Okay.
So it is not as defined, everyone must do it the same way as Walmart or another company. Everyone is different.
Okay. But does it usually come from the suppliers or
Genuinely.
So let me ask the main question. So if I go to Oracle, Oracle's going to say, that's $500,000. There are other guys that'll come in and they'll say, we'll charge $200 a supplier, $1,000 a supplier. Can you make it what I needed, or?
It's completely adaptable. And that is a genuine answer. I just can't give away any specifics. But what may be the case with Walmart is not necessarily the case with other people.
At the same time, if you're going to use that data amongst multiple customers, it makes sense for the supplier to pay for it because they're owning that data.
Right.
They can apply it in multiple aspects as well.
Right.
never participate unless you have a monopoly. I speak from experience. If Aura has a monopoly, they can charge. If they don't, you better pay, or your supplier begins to hate you.
Interesting.
All right, anybody else questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much, everyone.